Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, a new craze on TikTok is targeting a local church and led to some arrests. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
I don't like when people mess with my friends. Really don't like when people mess with my friends. And over the past 36 hours or so, people have been messing with my friends, and I really just don't appreciate that. And now, something that really bothers me is I like to think that when it comes to elections, it's us versus them. We got a ballot box. We got an issues. Let's talk about our issues. Let's talk about the ballot box. Let's do all that. But instead, the left, the Democrats, seem to always come up with these dirty, dirty tricks. And our minds, unfortunately, don't work that way because we're good people. I go back to when I used to say to people, guys, we got a ballot harvest. And we have to ballot harvest because the other side is ballot harvesting. And this one old lady at a church I was speaking at one time came up to me and said, well, I don't want to do that because it's not ethical. And I said, well, it's legal. And she said, but it's not ethical. And I said, then we're going to keep losing elections. Now, there's nothing wrong with ballot harvesting. The other side does it. And unfortunately, those are the rules of the game. Look, some people don't like the pitch clock in Major League Baseball. Those are the new rules of the game. Some people don't like the invisible runner on second base in extra innings, or excuse me, the invisible runner, the designated runner, the additional runner on second base to move the game along in extra innings. Well, I say invisible runner because I think back to Little League practice. But it's the rules of the game. Unfortunately for us, our minds are not usually as devious as the other side's. And what the other side has done this week is so devious, they are trying to put our friends in physical danger. They are trying to destroy their reputations, and they are trying to cost them a lot of money. This all started on Sunday. There's a woman named Katie Faust. She's been on the show before, friend of the show. I actually have a chapter in her book. It's a compilation about different political issues that can affect kids. I wrote a chapter about how defunding the police can affect kids and actually led to the death of a bunch of children. One that comes to mind, Amalia Goldade, the one who was killed because somebody stole a gardening truck and fled from the police because there were no police pursuits and ran down a 12-year-old girl and her friend. Her friend survived. She was killed. That's what I talked about in the book. Katie Faust is a Christian activist in our area, and she opposes gay marriage, and she opposes abortion, and she opposes a lot of other stuff which the Bible discusses, because guess what? She's a Christian activist. Okay, shock, shock, news flash. In other news, water still wet. Jim Brunner from the Seattle Times decided for Mother's Day to write a hit piece on Katie Faust, which was kind of weird. Katie Faust doesn't have a large social media presence. Katie Faust is not a topic of conversation. Katie Faust does what she does, but it's weird to pick on her. Somebody sent me this article because I don't read the Seattle Times. I had to actually hack the paywall to get through it to see what was so exciting about this thing. And as I kept reading, there's a paragraph that comes up later in the article. And it talks about how Katie Faust is speaking at a Republican event this coming weekend, which is emceed by Brandi Kruse, and Brian Heywood from Let's Go Washington will be there as well. Weird thing to mention. And I thought to myself at the time, is Jim Brunner from the Seattle Times trying to tell Antifa and other activists where the anti-gay marriage person is speaking so they can target the event? I was chalking it up to, oh, Jim Brunner's just a dum-dum. I didn't think he was malicious. That's what I was chalking it up to. And I figured, okay, weird. Or maybe he's trying to get more clicks because he knows that Let's Go Washington and Brandi will mention this. Maybe that's what he was thinking. Who knows? Then this all became clear yesterday. Yesterday, a group called Washingtonians for Ethical Government filed a Public Disclosure Commission complaint that's 24 pages long, alleging that by Let's Go Washington, working with Brandi Kruse, that by Brian Heywood going on Brandi Kruse's Undivided podcast, that by Brandi speaking at events for Let's Go Washington, it is an undisclosed in-kind campaign contribution and therefore a violation of PDC rules. Now, this is a BS claim. It's an absolutely BS claim. I cannot say that often enough. But you know what you still have to do with frivolous lawsuits or insane claims? You still have to defend yourself. And if you're spending the time in court or you're spending the time filling out paperwork or you're paying attorneys, you don't have that time or money for other things. Now, this complaint is beyond nonsense for a few reasons. One, Brandi Kruse agrees with Let's Go Washington. She agrees with the initiatives that they're doing. Keep boys out of girls' sports. Parents should have the rights to know what their kids are up to in their school. Oh, and the latest one is repeal the income tax because it's destroying Washington's economy and it's chasing away the business owners, it's chasing away the millionaires, it's chasing away the billionaires, and it is economic suicide. That's what Brandi aligns with. That's what we align with. That's what Let's Go Washington aligns with. How many times have we had Brian Heywood on our show? How many times have I been at Let's Go Washington events? How many times have we discussed the Let's Go Washington initiatives? Why was this thing filed yesterday? Because yesterday, Let's Go Washington got the title and all the stuff they needed to start printing out signature gathering sheets for the initiative to repeal the income tax. So now, rather than talking about the fact that Let's Go Washington got their ballot titles and they're going to get the signatures to repeal the income tax, we are talking about this ludicrous, insane PDC complaint against Brandi Kruse, Let's Go Washington, and Brian Heywood. There's something interesting about this, though. Something really, really fascinating about this. I thought to myself, this is odd because I probably do almost as many events for Let's Go Washington as Brandi Kruse does, and they didn't file one of these on me. I have Brian Heywood on my show all the time, and they didn't file one of these on me. And we do a lot of work with Let's Go Washington. In fact, they've even sponsored the show from time to time. And they didn't file one of these on me, which I thought was a little weird. But then I want to tell you a little story. And this one, I got to go back in time to when John Carlson retired. So right around the time John Carlson was retiring, it was actually the day of his last broadcast. What happened was somebody hit me with a frivolous lawsuit. And me and the KVI crew were discussing the frivolous lawsuit because they were just trying to shut me up. And what happened was I made a joke like, oh, I bet John Carlson's never gotten sued. And John Carlson says, ooh, well, actually, I did one time. And he tells us a story about how one time somebody was trying to pass a gas tax here in Washington. And John Carlson and Kirby Wilbur and KVI worked with the people on the initiative to repeal the gas tax and stop the gas tax. So they talked about it all the time. And guess what? Somebody filed a PDC complaint against them, claiming it was an in-kind, undisclosed campaign contribution. I want to fire up the old DeLorean here for a second. We haven't used this sucker in a while. It might be a little rusty. Let's turn on the time circuits. Let's get going here. I want to take you all the way back to 2007. This is a report from the Federalist Society that had an interest in this case. The case was San Juan County et al., that means everybody, versus no new gas tax. I'm just going to read from this. The Washington Supreme Court upheld the right of two Seattle radio talk show hosts to comment about campaign issues on the air. In its unanimous 9-0 decision, the Supreme Court ruled that KVI radio hosts John Carlson and Kirby Wilbur's on-air support for an anti-gas tax initiative did not run afoul of campaign finance laws. In 2005, the Washington legislature enacted a controversial 9.5 cent a gallon gas tax. Wilbur and Carlson, two popular conservative talk show hosts, opposed the new tax on their radio programs. The hosts also actively supported Initiative 912, I-912, the ballot measure brought by opponents of the gas tax to repeal the law. Carlson and Wilbur spent considerable time during their morning and evening radio shows, encouraging listeners to contribute to the campaign. They also urged their listeners to sign and circulate the initiative so that it qualified for the fall ballot. Although supporters of the initiative garnered enough signatures to qualify it for the fall election, I-912 was eventually defeated by the voters. During the beginning stages of the initiative process, the cities of Seattle, Kent, Auburn, and San Juan Island County filed a complaint against the No New Gas Tax campaign. The local governments alleged that the campaign violated public disclosure provisions under Washington's Fair Campaign Practices Act. Specifically, the municipalities alleged that the campaign failed to report in-kind contributions from Fisher Communications, which at the time owned KVI. According to the local governments, the campaign received free advertising from Carlson and Wilbur's radio shows. Therefore, the municipality saw an injunction to prevent the campaign from receiving further in-kind contributions until it reported the contributions to the PDC. The Thurston County Superior Court granted a preliminary injunction, but this got appealed and appealed and appealed and appealed. In a unanimous decision, the Washington Supreme Court reversed the trial court. The court ruled that Wilbur's and Carlson's on-air discussions of I-912 was protected speech. The Supreme Court began by analyzing Washington's FCPA. Specifically, the court looked into the statute to determine what constituted a contribution and determined that the host's on-air speech fell within the statute's media exemption. The prosecutors argued that the media exemption did not apply because the radio broadcasts were controlled by a political committee due to the radio host's role as principals of the campaign. The court rejected this argument. In a strongly written concurring opinion, Justice Jim Johnson, joined by Justice Richard Sanders, rebuked the local governments for bringing the lawsuit. In his opening sentence, Justice Johnson stated that today we are confronted with an example of abusive prosecution by several local governments. In addition, Justices Johnson and Sanders opined that the municipalities brought the lawsuit for the purpose of restricting or silencing political opponents. The concurring justices further argued that the local governments expected millions of dollars from the gas tax, and the law firm they hired stood to potentially benefit financially from its role as bond counsel to the state of Washington. The justices also explained that the injunction granted by the trial court was a chilling of speech because of the substantial risk that the radio host's continued commentary would lead to excessive financial sanctions and potential prosecution. They ended their concurring opinion by admonishing the prosecutors for bringing the lawsuit. You want to know something even crazier about this? You know who wrote an amicus brief supporting this? That's when you file a brief, even though you're not party to the lawsuit. You say we support their argument. You know who supported John Carlson and Kirby Wilbur and KVI? The ACLU. The ACLU and other groups that we now look at as radical activist groups were supporting free speech of KVI. Literally the exact same case that this leftist organization is trying to bring against Brandi Kruse and Let's Go Washington and Brian Heywood. So I asked the question, why not me? I feel a little left out all of a sudden. Why not me? because this exists. And they know this exists. They have the entire law firm of whoever working for them on this. They know this exists, and they know it's a loser, and they know they will lose this in court.
Well, that's a theory.
Well, I spoke
That's
to
a
two.
theory.
I spoke to two lawyers today, and what they said was, all things being equal, and having a normal state Supreme Court like we kind of used to have, yes, that would be fine. With the one we have now, who knows? But what's interesting here is literally the justices say it's chilling of free speech, say it's targeting free speech, and say you're targeting people, you're targeting their belief system. So I believe in keeping boys out of girls' sports. I have a daughter. If I didn't have a daughter, I'd still believe in it. I believe in parental rights to know what their kids are learning in school. If I didn't have kids, I would still believe in parental rights to know what kids are learning in school. I believe in not having a state income tax. And as we will evidence later on in the show about more businesses that are leaving Washington, I am right that it causes a detriment and suicide to our local economy. I believe in these principles. Are they going to come after me next? They are going after Brandi, and they are going after Brian Heywood, and they are going after Let's Go Washington because they figure if we get an article in the Seattle Times about this, then the average person who isn't following this, the next time they see a video from Brandi or a post from Let's Go Washington or a signature gathering event out on the street, which are about to happen, they'll think corruption. They'll think illegal. What's interesting, though, is that the Seattle Times never gets an article out this quickly. This group behind this effort to smear our friends filed this thing and then held a press conference even though the PDC has not yet even investigated the case. I know because I called them today to get a status update on this. They haven't even looked at the file yet, and these guys are already having a press conference about it? They're already doing that? In addition to that, the Seattle Times can get an article out about the press conference with experts cited and people they interviewed 15 minutes after the press conference? Now, what's fascinating about that, just so you know how long it normally takes the Seattle Times to get an article out with the different levels of editors it has to go through, yesterday Howard Schultz wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal bashing Katie Wilson, socialism, and Seattle's policies. That article in the Seattle Times did not come out till earlier today. It was almost 30 hours for the time Howard Schultz's article went that article came out in the Seattle Times. You're telling me they can get this article out in 15 minutes? Then you add to that the article they put out on Sunday, which was a hit piece on Katie Faust and Brandi Kruse and Brian Heywood and Let's Go Washington. Then there's this. Our friend Steve Murr pointed this out on the article that came out today. The piece is by the Education Lab. The Education Lab is a Seattle Times project that spotlights promising approaches to persistent challenges in public education. The Seattle Foundation serves as the fiscal sponsor for Education Lab, which is supported by grants from the Gates Foundation and the Ballmer Group. You want to talk about pay for play? This article is literally funding the reporter, funding the department that wrote this thing. So it's basically sponsored. So the article where you're trying to claim that Brandi and Brian and Let's Go Washington are doing something wrong is literally doing the exact same thing. So should we start filing PDC complaints against the Seattle Times? Should we start filing PDC complaints against anybody that does advertising? Because if you do that, guess what? You're going to have a lot less shows in town and a lot less media in town, starting with the Seattle Times. But something else here. This decision from the justices back in 2007 calls out there are people who will financially benefit from this tax, and they are trying to chill the free speech because of how they benefit from this tax. There's a picture I found of some of the people behind this group, Washingtonians for Ethical Government, and these political groups that they're working with. So, for example, Powerhouse Strategies. They're a political consultant that's running this for the left. There's a woman named Heather Weiner and a woman named Kristen Hyde who are listed on their website. Well, there's a picture of the two of them that I found with them standing shoulder to shoulder and hugging Katie Wilson after she got elected, and all of them are wearing SEIU name tags. Oh, one of the big unions around here that stands to benefit from the income tax? Oh, and this Powerhouse Strategies that does work for leftist causes, which will likely benefit from money that is used from these taxes. It is literally the exact same case as was brought against John Carlson, Kirby Wilbur, and KVI in 2007. And now it's being used to attack Let's Go Washington, Brian Heywood, and Brandi Kruse. So I have a few action items for you today, my friends. Number one, if you still have a subscription to the Seattle Times, you are funding this. You are funding the attacks on your friends. You are funding the attacks on people who are trying to make Washington better and preserve your ideals. You need to cancel it today. And if you cancel your Seattle Times subscription today, we'll call it out on air and give you kudos for it. We'll give you kudos for it. And the next time you see me at a KVI event, I'll have some KVI swag for you. So that's number one. Number two, you need to make sure you're subscribing to Brandi's podcast, the Undivided Podcast. You need to make sure that you're doing that to support people like Brandi who are being targeted. You need to go to the Let's Go Washington website and you need to request signature gathering sheets. So that way you, your family, all your friends can fight back against the income tax. And because I assume I'm the next target, I'll do a shameless plug and say, you know what, give me a subscribe on the podcast as well. But it's not about me today. It's about how the left is doing everything they possibly can to smear, tar and feather our friends because they are fighting against the leftist insane agenda, which is destroying Washington. They want, these radical activists want boys playing against girls. They want parents not to know what's going on with their kids in school. They want an income tax, which is going to destroy our economy. They want these things. Do not let them get away with it. So your action items today. Cancel the Seattle Times. Sign up for Let's Go Washington to make sure you get signature sheets. And subscribe to the podcast of the people who bring you the real news that are fighting to make Washington better, like Brandi Kruse. I want you to do those things today. And if you do those things today, we will call you out on the show. You can email me, ari@kvi.com. You can call us. You can text us, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Because the other side doesn't play by our rules. And what they're trying to do is smear people's reputations so they can win an election, so they can push their agenda. That's what this is all about. And the Seattle Times is complicit in their insanity. You want to weigh in on this craziness, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Up next, my friends, we will take your calls and your texts. Plus, a local church is being targeted in a new insane craze. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, we are running a contest for you to win tickets to the Bremerton Air Show July 11th through 12th. So head on over to kvi.com where you can enter for your chance to win four tickets to the Bremerton Air Show. Also, while you're at kvi.com, you can stream the show over there. You can download the podcasts. And, of course, sign up to become a KVI Insider. So that way you never miss out on any events or any of the fun. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Kevin in Belfair. Kevin, what's going on, man?
How are you doing, Ari?
Oh, I'm a little mad today, my friend. I wish I had a punching bag or a speed bag here in the studio. I know I haven't used it in years, but I would need one today.
Well, Kevin's got to stay a bit away from you then. I remember back in the 60s, Rhoda Martin's Laughing had a guy by the name of Pat Paulson, and he registered as a candidate for president. Once he got enough minutes on the program to exceed the other candidates, DOJ forced him to be taken off the air. But it just doesn't seem like there's any equality anymore on any of the networks. It's all left-leaning, and I'll tell you one thing, suppression of these things, and this goes back to the laptop, the promotion of the Steele dossier, which everybody knew was false. That's just simple fascism, as is indoctrinating our kids in school.
Well, think about it this way for a second. Why do you think mainstream media is dying? It's because people have other options these days, right? They can listen to talk radio. They can go on Fox News. They can go on the Daily Wire. They can go on the Daily Caller. They can go to KVI.com. They have all these different options they can go to, and that means they lost more consumers. You know, it's not like in the 1960s and 70s when you just had a few networks out there. I love that joke in the X-Men the X-Men Days of Future Past movie when they're talking about how they tape all three networks. You know, that's all you had was you could tape ABC, NBC, and CBS, and that's all you had. That's it. You know, we don't have the Walter Cronkites anymore. So that's an example of how the market has become so saturated, you can find the news you want. Kevin, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. This one from the 360. We have been longtime subscribers to Brandi's Patreon account. We also donated cash to Let's Go Washington today. On the list to get the initiatives sent to our house. Keep up the fight. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. This one from the 253. I think it'd be really interesting to find out who actually has more subscribers, the Seattle Times or the Stranger. You know what I would actually like to know? Who has more subscribers, the Seattle Times or the Center Square? I think that would be fun to watch. I mean, the Seattle Times, the way they're still in business is because they get things funded by Gates and Ballmer and the rest of them, like the Education Lab or the Climate Lab or Homeless Project or whatever other nonsense they have. It's not through their subscriptions. It's just not. This one here from the 425. Hey, Ari, my name is Cody. I'm fully behind you and Brandi Kruse. Brandi Kruse has done more real investigative journalism in Washington State over the last few years than most legacy outlets combined. Whether people agree with her politically or not, she asks questions many media organizations refuse to touch. Trying to smear or politically isolate independent journalists because they challenge activist narratives is dangerous territory. A healthy media environment requires people willing to investigate power structures, political machines, public spending, lobbying networks, and ideological influence regardless of party. If someone believes Brandi is wrong, rebut her reporting with facts and evidence. Coordinated character attacks against her independent media voice is only reinforced why so many Washingtonians no longer trust establishment, political circles, or legacy press outlets. Cody, couldn't have said it better myself. Exactly right. This one here from L. Darthbo. L. Darthbo says he was never had a subscription to the Seattle Slimes. A reminder for you of my feelings towards the Seattle Slimes fish wrapper. It would be an insult to fish. Very good. Very good. Appreciate that, L. Darthbo. Up next, my friends, this crazy TikTok fad, which now led to some arrests after some Utes targeted a local church. Tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Speaking of solutions in search of a problem, did anybody ask for more water stations downtown to fill up your water bottles? That's apparently what they're installing for the World Cup. Now, is that nice? Sure. Lovely. Would you actually use them? How about no? The reason I would never use these things is because for me, if I see one of these things on the street, I'm just going to imagine some homeless guy cleaning his you-know-what with it. That's what I'm going to picture every single time. When's the last time you used a water fountain in a park in Seattle? How about no? How about no? I do see some of our homeless friends have decided to use the new fountains and little reflecting pools that they have down on the waterfront as bathtubs. I have seen that before. So would you actually use these water bottle fillers that they're installing for the World Cup? Oh, yes, another great waste of taxpayer money. And this is actually federal taxpayer money they're getting this time. For all the money they give to cities that are having the World Cup, this is what we're spending the money on. Excellent, fantastic. I'm sure this will be just as successful as when they had those self-cleaning bathrooms in Seattle. Oh, dear, my first exposure to the self-cleaning bathrooms. So my wife and I were about to get married. I got married at the Sheraton in Seattle downtown. Very nice affair. Lots of people. It was lovely. My in-laws, very nice people to pay for all that. What happened was I'd been to Seattle a few times, but basically my trips to Seattle had been consisting of going to my in-laws' house, going to synagogue, going to a few touristy sites. I didn't really know Seattle. So my buddies and I come to town, and I'm the first one in our crew to get married, and my friends have no idea how to throw a bachelor party. At all. Granted, I would not have gone for the over-the-top crazy bachelor party. That just ain't me. But something a little bit more organized would have been nice. So my friends say to my father-in-law, where do you go? And my father-in-law goes, I don't know, Pioneer Square? Okay, we'll go to Pioneer Square. So we literally had a drink, I think, in every bar in Pioneer Square at the time. That was just bar hopping. Bar. That was my bachelor party. Well, when you drink that much, you really got to go to the bathroom. And I see this public bathroom outside this contraption that's supposed to be this self-cleaning bathroom business. What a nasty, nasty thing. Just talk about technology not working right. That thing was disgusting. Gee, I wonder why Seattle ended up getting rid of those suckers after dropping hundreds of thousands of dollars on them. Oh, because they were disgusting. I remember they were talking about bringing them back a few years ago. So this is the new self-cleaning bathroom. We're going to have the water stations. Yes, how long until you have addicts cleaning their needles and meth pipes or, pieces of their anatomy inside your water bottle station? Yes, when you go downtown for the World Cup and you want to fill up your water bottle, wait a second, hang on. You're not allowed to bring water bottles into the stadium. This serves no function whatsoever. What are we doing this for? What a colossal waste of money. Oh, I forgot what I'm talking about. I'm talking about government. Yes, this is about as effective as those flags they painted over on the monorail. Switching gears to this crazy story about a TikTok craze that is targeting churches. Seattle police arrested 3 juveniles Saturday afternoon after a protest at the Church of Scientology. Escalated into a forced entry, alleged threats with a crowbar, and a building-wide power shutdown that sent church members sheltering in reaction to the Scientology speed run TikTok craze. I don't do the tick of talks, so I don't really know about this. According to police reports that we got a copy of, officers responded at 3:02 p.m. on May 9th to the Church of Scientology in Seattle's West Precinct area after receiving reports of a large demonstration connected to a nationwide online trend targeting Scientology facilities. Police say approximately 30 demonstrators gathered outside the church as part of a scheduled nationwide protest event that had gained traction on TikTok and other social media platforms. Initially, dispatchers advised responding officers that no weapons had been seen. However, while officers were en route, they learned that several protesters had allegedly forced entry into the building through rear metal doors, and one suspect was reportedly armed with a crowbar. According to the investigators, church staff attempted to secure the building after previous incidents involving demonstrators trying to enter the property. Police say a smaller group within the crowd made a deliberate attempt to breach the church. One church security official told police that a 17-year-old suspect used a blue crowbar to try to pry open a north side entrance. During the confrontation, the suspect allegedly raised the crowbar over his head while making eye contact with a church staff member. causing the employee to fear an imminent assault. Another church manager reportedly became so frightened by the incident, she almost cried, according to the report. Police say the suspects later moved on to a west side entrance where surveillance footage allegedly captured them breaking a lock and entering the building. 6 people reportedly entered the structure, though officers detained 3 juveniles following a brief foot pursuit nearby. Once inside, investigators say the group located the building's main circuit breaker and shut off power to the entire structure. The outage reportedly disabled elevators, surveillance systems, and potentially portions of the fire suppression system. Church staff and parishioners relocated to upper floors and sheltered in place until officers secured the scene. This is what I'm talking about all the time, guys. Churches really need to up their security. You got to be like the Jewish institutions. That's why we all have guns. Seattle police identified the 3 arrested suspects as juveniles aged 16 and 17. One of the juveniles taken into custody was also listed as an unverified missing person. Wow, really got the best here. Police said an officer on scene confirmed the missing person status. Investigators say probable cause existed to arrest all 3 for second-degree burglary, hate crime offenses, and felony harassment. The felony harassment allegation specifically relates to the suspect accused of brandishing the crowbar. Police stated that a hate crime enhancement was considered because the incident targeted a federally recognized religious institution and because church members believed they were targeted because of their religion. Yeah, you think anybody around here is going to prosecute juveniles for breaking and entering? How about a hate crime? My guess is the King County prosecutors won't actually do anything about it, but we'll see. We will see. Authorities also noted the Seattle Scientology Church had been the target of 2 prior similar incidents in recent months. The incident appears connected to a viral social media phenomenon often referred to online as the Scientology Run or the Scientology Speed Run. The trend, popularized largely through TikTok and live stream platforms, involves individuals entering Scientology buildings and attempting to travel as deep into the facilities as possible before being stopped by staff or security. This is the latest fad? I don't remember anything like this when we were kids. According to the New York Post, participants frequently record the encounters for social media views, treating the event similarly to a video game challenge or speed run. The term speed running originally comes from video game culture. In gaming, a speed run is when players try to complete a game or objective as quickly as possible, often competing for record times. Is that like my buddy who beat the original Super Mario Brothers in 12 minutes? I saw him do it. It was incredible. 12 minutes. He beat that Super Mario Brothers on one life. It was incredible. He knew how to get over every treetop. He knew every sewer passage. It was awesome.
That's cool and all, but it's called a speed run, right?
Yeah.
You got to go in and use the warp zones. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. So, for me, that's kind of not that impressive. I mean, it's impressive. Look, I'm not going to be able to do it, but it's still like you're still using cheats.
I'll tell you what I was most impressed with. So we went with the youth group to this, I think it was Montreal or something like that. We went on a trip somewhere from New York. And we go to this random house, and we're staying in their basement, and they have the original Nintendo. My buddy said he hadn't played, I haven't played that sucker in years. He's like, I wonder if I could still beat Super Mario in like less than 20 minutes. I'm like, shut up, you cannot do that. And he goes, yes, I can. Pop that cartridge right in, and he did it. He did it. So that's the more impressive thing, I think. That it wasn't like when we were 10 years old or 12 years old or whatever. He did it when we were like 20. And he still remembered how to do
muscle memory.
This. Yeah,
Along the same lines, my younger brother,
Mm-hmm.
we would always use the cheat code to get to Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Punch out.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a 12-digit code. I can't remember exactly how many digits it is. Something like that, like 12.
Yeah.
One night, after many drinks in the middle of the night, we were playing some Nintendo, and one of my friends goes, hey, I wonder what the code to Tyson is. I'd like to play. And I said, hold on, let me call my brother. Woke my brother up out of a dead sleep. I said, what's the code to Tyson? He rattled it off like
nothing.
That, like nothing. And we tried it, didn't work, called him back, and he picked up and said, it's 9, not 8. He knew what number he was off after we hung up.
That's like, so somebody says to me today, what's the Konami code? Up, down, left, right, BA, select, start, right? I mean, we all still know these things to this day.
Yeah.
Can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning, but I can remember the Konami code from 30 years ago. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friend. Speaking of things from a few years ago, Rachel Dolezal Back in the news, that lady who pretended she was black but was a little white girl. We'll tell you why, because it ain't pretty when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Kevin, just before we get to the woke insanity, these texts are great. So Paul in North Seattle, because we were just talking about the speed run record for Super Mario Brothers, the original Super Mario Brothers. Paul in North Seattle says, currently the speed run for Super Mario Brothers is like under 5 minutes. They're pretty close to theoretical minimum by now. Now, Matt says over on the text line, and these are two independent, they're not like arguing with each other or anything. As of October 2025, the Super Mario Brothers speed run world record is 4 minutes, 54.515 seconds, achieved by Average 11 on August 28, 2025. And while that's an interesting little tidbit and probably pretty cool, I think that kid needs to touch some grass, get outside a little bit more. You know what? It's probably not some kid. It's probably some dude our age doing that. Or some kid comes along and the dudes our age are still competing and looking at that kid like, my life is wasted.
I always have, I have plenty of video game consoles at my house. I'm
Yeah.
a big kid.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of nostalgia for the stuff, but I always like end up putting something in and going, I'm going to play some video. I haven't played a video game in a while. And then like 5-10 minutes in, I'm like, this is too hard.
It's too difficult.
It's too hard.
I can't do this anymore.
I don't remember how to, okay. Yeah. I'm just going to watch some TV.
That's what I'm going to do. Put my feet up, not be as invested. What's a movie I've seen 1,000 times before? Let me turn that on.
Because I can't go through all of these thumbnails on what other streaming service I have and make an actual decision.
Nope.
Because it's just decision fatigue. So I'll watch White Men Can't Jump again.
Yeah, you know how hard it is for me to pick like a show I'm invested in? So I'm invested in The Lincoln Lawyer right now. But something else pops up when I turn on the Netflix and I'm like, oh, I haven't seen The Wraith in years. Let me watch The Wraith with Charlie Sheen.
Major League.
What,
Yeah,
Major League is on?
That sounds like a good one. It's baseball's going hot and heavy. Let's do some Major League.
Let's watch that. Well, speaking of things we haven't heard from for a long time, Rachel Dolezal is back in the news.
Now that's a name I've not heard in a long time. A long time.
Okay, do you remember who Rachel Dolezal is? She's from here, she's from Washington, and she was head of one of the local NAACP chapters. She identified as a black woman, but she was a little white girl. And she painted her face, and she did her hair differently. Now, the thing that always bothers me for this is, so you can identify with whatever gender you want, but not whatever race you want? I submit to you, the reason she was canceled was because she shows how ridiculous this proposition is. No matter what parts of your anatomy you cut off, or whatever things you add from other parts of your anatomy, don't change chromosomes. Don't change anything about them. So I think Rachel Dolezal was exposing how stupid all this stuff is, because she got canceled in a big way. Everybody was making fun of her. Us on the right were making fun of her. The left was demonizing her. I mean, this woman could cure cancer, and still all people will remember is, aren't you a little white girl dressed up as a black girl? Isn't that you? That's all people will ever remember. And in fact, I'm looking at a picture of her right now. She still kind of looks like the way she used to make herself look. So I don't think anything's changed. I think she's just kind of embraced that a little bit more. Now, I had to read this from the New York Post because the way they write these things is always so funny. Infamous race faker turned OnlyFans model Rachel Dolezal has revealed she is becoming a certified sex coach to help pay the bills. I'm sorry, is that something that pays the bills? It's just... The 40-year-old mom told the Daily Mail she has nearly completed her 300-hour certified qualification. Okay, I got to ask, what exactly do you do to get certified in this profession? When I was a water skiing and wakeboarding instructor, you had to be able to do all the tricks that you were licensed to instruct in. So if I wanted to teach flips, I had to be able to do the flips. If I wanted to jump the wake, I had to jump the wake. And it was a very painful summer, and I got very good at it, and then I got fat. But I used to be very good at these things. Do you have to demonstrate the stuff from that you're instructing these people in? I have many questions about this. Apparently, OnlyFans is where she's making a living. I can't believe there's people that actually subscribe to this stuff.
I don't have enough time for this, but AI says that you need to be a licensed mental health professional, master's or doctoral degree in counseling, psychology, or social work. Then you obtain specialized certification, often through the American Association of Sexuality Educators, Counselors, and Therapists.
Okay, I don't want to go to any of those websites because that'll mess up my search history.
And I just did that. I just messed mine up.
Now you know what it's going to be suggesting to you when you go to Netflix or whatever, the Rachel Dolezal documentary or whatever it is. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. Up next, Howard Schultz pens a scathing op-ed about Seattle, but a lot of people aren't taking it in the spirit it was intended. We'll give you all the details on that, plus more businesses leaving Seattle and Washington when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless. Streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, the Seattle Times isn't the only outlet that lies through its teeth. The New York Times is challenging them for the throne. But before we get to any of that, I got a story now you're not going to get anywhere else.
Talk Radio 570 KVI, an Ari Hoffman Show exclusive.
Yesterday on the show, we were talking about the businesses leaving Washington. And one of our listeners reached out to me, John Bodwell. John Bodwell owns Delta Camshaft in Tacoma. They are, according to him, the largest custom camshaft regrinding company in America. And they are now moving out of Tacoma after 48 years in Washington. In fact, they're leaving the entire state. John told me, I've decided I can no longer compete with the political doom that's come through town. The building is currently active on the markets as I set my sights on Mesa, Arizona. Crime, graffiti, taxes, and fees got me on the run. Well over 1 million camshafts to hand pack into boxes for the move, then unload in the new facility, and 4 machines that weigh around 7 tons each. The move alone will cost well over $100,000. Sadly, worth every penny. He sent me a picture. I believe that's him or one of his employees in front of the store. I can't really tell because it's taken from a distance. But the front of the building is covered with graffiti. You get tired after a while of covering it up, of repainting and repainting. You're just like, you know what, if I leave it there, maybe somebody else won't tag it. I won't have to deal with it instead. If you look at the windows and the door, I see bars on the windows and the doors. This is how you chase away businesses. Bad policies that enable crime and cost you too much money. It'd be one thing if our property taxes were high and we said, hey, you know what? Police come within 30 seconds when I call them. Maybe a minute tops. Hey, you know what? Garbage is always picked up and the streets are always clean. It'd be one thing if we were getting charged up the wazoo and Tacoma was beautiful or Seattle was beautiful. As the property taxes, as the cost of doing business, as all these other costs have skyrocketed, has anything gotten better around here? Anything at all? Now, here's something else to think about regarding John and Delta Camshaft. How many other companies do they do business with locally that now won't have their business? How many employees does Delta Camshaft have? That those employees are either going to Arizona or losing their jobs. Those employees, if they do go to Arizona, then what happens is, let's just take John. John goes to Arizona. Now, whoever John's barber is doesn't have a customer anymore. Whoever John's grocer is doesn't have a customer anymore. Whoever John buys things from don't have customers anymore. And this is what happens to the economy. I'm sure there are bigger companies that rely on Delta Camshaft, and now they're going to have to pay more money to have it shipped in from wherever he goes in Arizona. This is what happens when businesses leave. And something else, if he's paying rent on that building, that means somebody's going to want to rent it or it's just sitting there empty, and now the landlord's losing money. If he owns the building, is anybody going to want to buy this thing? You got to get it cleaned up and fixed up for sale. Can he stop the graffiti people from tagging it time and time again? This is what happens. It's not just businesses like Starbucks, Amazon, and others that are leaving. It's businesses like Delta Camshaft in Tacoma. This is what happens when you make bad policy decisions. It affects everybody, and some people just can't stay anymore. You're talking about a business that's probably worth millions of dollars, but you wouldn't know it from looking at it because the elites look down their nose on people like John who work with their hands. And these businesses are affected by this. I'll take you back to COVID. Do you remember that during the shutdowns, California and Washington were two of the states that were shut down the longest? And eventually, the CEO of Disneyland sent a letter to Gavin Newsom begging him to lift the restrictions so they could reopen Disneyland because the people who sell things to Disneyland and rely on Disney's business couldn't do business anymore. Let's look at a Starbucks for a second. If you walk into a Starbucks anywhere in the U.S., you'll have the exact same cup of coffee. you will not have the exact same pastries. You won't. They usually get them from a local supplier because you have to get them faster. You can't wait for them to be shipped in from Seattle or wherever. So they usually have local suppliers that do that. Why do I know this? Because some cities I go to, that stuff is kosher, and some cities it ain't. And I got to know what's in them.
I like how you said when you walk into a Starbucks, well, we can't do that anymore.
Right.
We literally can't walk into a Starbucks here.
Yeah.
In fact, I came in today. I took the bus in today.
Yes.
For various reasons.
Yes.
I walked through the Armory and I saw the bleached bones of the Starbucks that used to be there.
That was my Starbucks.
In fact, I was in that place at about, I want to say it was like 9-ish this morning, 9:30, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And there's all these signs, like there's a couple of places that, like, breakfast. I'm looking around, they're all chained up. I'm like, well, it's like 9:30 in the morning.
Ain't getting breakfast here, that's for sure.
You're pushing it till 10:30 or 10. Nothing was open for breakfast. There were signs for breakfast all over the place.
Right, and there's probably not enough customers to justify it. I mean, Kevin, how many Starbucks used to be here when we first moved in 4 years ago to this building?
I know.
What were there, 5 or 6 of them?
At least 4.
At least 4. Let's go with 4. The closest one now is a 5-minute drive next to the Taco Time.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. We can't walk into a Starbucks here.
We cannot walk in. You are right, sir.
That would be a long walk.
I did have to check the packaging of that Starbucks to see where they get their stuff from in case I could eat it. And guess what the answer is? No. How about no?
How about no?
Now I don't get my Krispy Kreme, and now I don't get my pastries either. This is just sucking around here these days. So Starbucks gets those from somebody. Disneyland gets their stuff from somebody. Somebody makes the churros at Disneyland. Well, speaking of Starbucks, Howard Schultz wrote an op-ed to the Wall Street Journal. He wrote an op-ed destroying Katie Wilson, absolutely destroying her socialist rhetoric. That's an exact quote, by the way. The op-ed was published the same day, the exact same day, that Starbucks announced it's laying off another 61 employees in Seattle, even as they claim, we're not moving. We're not moving. We know that Ari Hoffman guy was out there with a U-Haul with all his little radio buddies. We're not moving. We know our employees are out in the parking lot saying they got laid off and filming little selfie videos. Nope. We're not leaving. We are here. We're going to leave that mermaid sign up on top of the building until an earthquake takes it down. We're not moving. The pride flag will remain. Let's not forget, Schultz relocated to Florida, announced he was relocating to Florida the same day the Democrats passed the income tax here in Washington. He also, when that happens, we found out that Starbucks is moving all their jobs. Oh, well, I'm sorry. They're keeping a presence in Seattle, but they're laying off another 61 people here and hiring 2,000 people in Nashville. But they're not leaving. They're not leaving. Trust them when they say that, right?
I love this comes from the same guy that said the same thing about the Sonics when he was a part ownership of that. We're not leaving. They're not going anywhere. I'm selling them to somebody who's got the utmost care for all of the fans.
Yes. Yeah, that didn't work out
I believe
so
a
well
word that this knucklehead says either way.
No, and here's something else. Before I read you this op-ed, I was going to mention the Sonics thing, but Kevin brought it up because he's the Seattle boy, born and raised, and that's when you hear Howard Schultz, you don't think coffee. You think Sonics. You know what, all the words I can't say on air. But when I hear Howard Schultz, I don't think coffee. I don't think Sonics. I think leftist activist, leftist mega donor, because this is the guy who funded all of this. So before we get too deep into his op-ed, I want you to take this op-ed with a mountain of salt. Now, mind you, if he's finally awoken to the fact that woke is stupid, then God bless you. Welcome to the party, pal. We should play that Bruce Willis clip anytime this happens. I mention it too often. Welcome to the party, pal. We should load that in the system. I'll have to remember that for tomorrow. But so, okay, maybe he's changed his political leanings. Hey, Donald Trump used to give money to Democrats. Maybe. So when we read this thing, let's just dig into this a little bit. So he relocated to Florida after more than 4 decades in Seattle, following the passage of the new state income tax. He argued that Washington's once thriving economic ecosystem is fractured today. He singled out Wilson directly, accusing the mayor of treating employees like political enemies instead of economic partners. Quote, Seattle's Mayor Katie Wilson has chosen to cast business as a foil rather than a partner. Her socialist rhetoric vilifies employers, even while she continues to rely on them for revenue. Now, nobody knows this better than Starbucks. Katie Wilson, the day she gets elected, what's the first thing she does as mayor-elect? She goes and joins the baristas who are boycotting Starbucks and calls for a boycott of Starbucks. She goes down there and joins all the keffiyeh-wearing baristas down there for the Ventifada. She goes down there herself. And she said, quote, I am not buying Starbucks, and you should not too. And then they decide to get out of here. Are you surprised? This is the same one who, what was her exact words that she said when she was talking about the wealthy here and what if they would actually leave Seattle?
Like, bye.
Right. That Katie Wilson. Her. Okay. So she also said that she thought claims of millionaires leaving our state are like super overblown. And the ones that leave, like, bye. That's Katie Wilson. We all remember this, right? Well, you would think, after being called out by basically everybody in the U.S. at this point, literally everybody has seen Katie Wilson's stupidity on full display. Whether it's saying, like, bye to the very tax base you rely on, or whether it's walking away from an interview because you can't handle questions. Whatever the case may be with Katie Wilson, you would think she might have learned her lesson. Nope. No, my friends. No. Yesterday, she had an interview that started going viral on social media from the Seattle channel. Now, the Seattle channel is not one I watch very often. I have to see clips from it before I go, oh, right, we have the Seattle channel. Almost forgot about that thing. So on the Seattle channel, they were actually asking all the right questions, and listen to what Katie Wilson said.
Robert asked on Facebook, is she going to say bye to more millionaires, billionaires, and corporations as that tax-based revenue leaves the state? I think people have concerns about this. As popular as it is on the ballot for people to say tax the rich, I think there are some businesses that are saying, wait a minute, and maybe they're speaking with their pocketbooks.
Hang on one second. Did you hear her giggle in the background? Can we just back this up a little bit here? Let's go back to that a second.
Robert asked on Facebook, is she going to say bye to more millionaires, billionaires, and corporations as that tax-based revenue leaves the state? I think people have concerns about this. As popular as it is on the ballot for people to say tax the rich, I think there are some businesses that are saying, wait a minute, and maybe they're speaking with their pocketbooks, moving out of here, things of that nature. How do you respond to that piece?
So I'm really proud of the work that I did and that Allie did and that many others did to pass the Jumpstart payroll expense tax back in 2020.
Stop. You weren't in office in 2020. In fact, you were still head of the Transit Riders Union. So what'd you do, knock on doors? Volunteer? You didn't donate because you're living off mom and dad unless you were using their money to donate to campaigns. So you're proud that you passed the Jumpstart tax. What's the Jumpstart tax? It used to be called the head tax. The head tax was the one where you charge big businesses for being successful. You charge them for having high-paid employees. And all these businesses, including companies like Amazon, said, if you do this, we are going to leave. If you do this, we promise we are going to leave. And Amazon moved to Bellevue. And now maybe gearing up to leave the state. So you chased out Amazon. So you are now taking credit for chasing out Amazon. Oh, did I mention? Do you remember last year when we got these revenue reports about how Seattle was underwater and it was in the red and it was having financial problems? And Bruce Harrell, former mayor of Seattle, came out at the time and said one of the things it was attributed to was that the head tax, the Jumpstart tax, chased companies out of Seattle, so they got less revenue from it than they forecasted. So just to be clear, Katie Wilson has now taken ownership of all of that, of all of it. She has taken ownership for that. Okay, Let's keep going here.
And as Director Panucci mentioned,
Yes.
Without that major progressive revenue source, which, yes, is a tax on large corporations, with a high-paid workforce, we would have been in a world of hurt.
Stop. You're in a world of hurt because of that tax. Because you guys pushed for that tax, you lost not just the businesses, but the employees who pay taxes in this city, who buy goods in this city and pay taxes on that. You lost their business because of your stupidity. No, it did not save the city. It actually made things worse.
During the pandemic. And this is also what has been floating the city budget, basically for the last 5 years.
Not true. It has not been floating the city budget. It's actually been hurting the city budget.
So I'm really proud of that work. And
you heard her say it. She's proud of it. Remember this come election time.
I do think it's a problem, and I've stated this publicly many times, when Seattle's kind of business environment, tax environment gets very out of step with our neighboring jurisdictions, including Bellevue, right? And so that is something.
Whoa. Wait. So I'm really proud of the tax we passed, but we might be out of step with Bellevue. But I'm really proud of the out-of-step tax that we passed, but we might be out of step with Bellevue because Amazon went to Bellevue. Oh, this dum-dum. Okay, what's next?
That, as we're looking at addressing this structural budget deficit, we're going to be taking into account, right? And when we look at our revenue options, yes, one option is to dial up Jumpstart, right?
Wait a second. Wait a minute. So what you're saying is this tax, which is out of step with our neighbors, which is why companies and people are moving to nearby cities, let alone out of state. You want to increase the taxes? Have you lost your mind? You have a giant forehead. Is there a brain behind it at all? At all. That's such a giant forehead. It must be holding a massive brain. I shouldn't really judge that because dinosaurs had really big heads and they had pea-sized brains.
And no options are off the table because we don't have any great options, right?
You do have great options. You know what it could be? Sorry, business. We screwed you over. We're going to make things better. We're not going to chase you out anymore. Try that, maybe. Just a thought.
Also, I don't think it's good that, it is less expensive to do business in Bellevue than in Seattle. And so we're going to be taking that into consideration.
What? You just said you were going to tax everybody more. But it's not good to be more. I can't with her. I really can't with her. All right. What other pearls of wisdom did she have?
Can you talk about some of the different progressive revenue ideas that are out there? I don't know if it's too early or not, but we've got that Jumpstart tax, the payroll expense tax. Is there a wealth tax in the offing? Is there a capital gains tax, perhaps, which I know the state has and the Supreme Court has upheld? What are you considering there, I guess?
Yeah, I think part of the challenge of the moment that we're in is that there is not a silver bullet, right? There is not some major progressive revenue, untapped progressive revenue source that, we know is practically implementable on this timeline, legally airtight, that we can just pass and it's going to plug this budget hole. That does not exist. There are options, and we are, our team is hard at work studying those options. I think capital gains tax is absolutely on the table.
So, have you thought about cutting spending? Have you thought about it? I'm just going to, crazy idea, I know. Revolutionary, radical, you might even say. Have you thought about stopping the spending? Just throwing that one out there for a second. Just a thought. Crazy thought. Have you thought about that rather than raising taxes again, which is going to cost you more money? 425 just texted this in. Maybe Eric Johnson should do another Seattle is dying report. You know what it should be? Seattle's dead. I think you just put that one out there. Seattle is dead. And you know what you do? You go door to door to all the businesses. And you go, this is where Abercrombie and Fitch used to be. This is where the Nike store used to be. This is where Whole Foods used to be. This is where PCC used to be. This is where the Cheesecake Factory used to be. Then you wait till Starbucks moved out and you go, this is where Starbucks used to be. Come with me. Let me show you the mall. Let's show you the mall downtown. Echo. Oh, a Johnny Rockets at AMC. There's nothing else here, but there's a Johnny Rockets, an AMC, and the Thai place that we get drinks at from time to time when we go to an AMC movie. That's literally all that is there now. I don't even think they bothered decorating the place for Christmas this year.
No, it's really nice when you walk in there, too, because I go through there sometimes when I'm going downtown to like a game or something. I walk in there, I'm like, this place is really nice. There's nothing in here.
That's right. I don't have to like weave my way through people. I could just use it as like a glorified covered canopy.
Yeah.
So I could stay out of the rain.
Uh-huh.
Oh, you're right. I've been
And
looking at this all wrong.
You would know this, but Din Tai Fung is also at the top of that, which is
your dim sum place or
Yeah,
whatever it is that
fantastic.
you guys like that place up there.
Oh,
Okay.
it's wonderful.
All right. So there's 4 or 5 restaurants, the AT&T store, and the AMC movie theater.
Yeah, and then like 7 floors of emptiness and weird little one-off stores
You
here
could
and there.
film the Blues Brothers chase in there. You could do that. You could film one of those movies with skateboard. Wait, they want to bring movie production back to Seattle. Who wants an empty mall? Who wants an empty office building?
Gleaming the Cube.
Gleaming the Cube with Christian Slater and that
Part
dude.
2.
What was that? That dude who was the detective. He was in Primal Fear and like nothing else. I don't remember his name. Right. Gleaming the Cube and Tony Hawk. Tony Hawk was in that sucker too, driving the Pizza Hut truck. So you didn't have Tony Hawk on a skateboard, but you had him driving. Why do I remember this stuff? I remember the Konami code. I remember who's in Gleaming the Cube. Still don't know what I had for breakfast this morning. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, New York Times is lying to distract from an even bigger story. Looks like we know who the Seattle Times learned it from. We'll give you all the details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just want to remind you, we have a contest going on right now over at KVI.com. So you can win four tickets to the Bremerton Air Show on July 11th and 12th. And we will be out there on the 12th to hang out with all of you. We'll have some of that KVI gear for you out there. So head on over to KVI.com right now and enter for your chance to win four tickets to the Bremerton Air Show. You remember yesterday, we mentioned this, yesterday, the New York Times had an op-ed that came out. And what the story was about was it was by a guy named Nicholas Kristof. I know a lot of you are thinking to yourself, why do I know that name? He's the guy who tried to run for governor of Oregon, even though he didn't live in Oregon. This is the guy who has made a career out of fake news, reporting things that just ain't factually accurate. Well, he outdid himself this time. So do you remember last week we were talking about kamikaze dolphins? Do you remember people were actually asking Pete Hegseth if the U.S. was using kamikaze dolphins on the Iranians to sniff mines? Do you remember this insanity? Well, I wish I could say I was surprised by this, but this is the kind of garbage that the Palestinians, the Iranians, and other terrorist organizations have been spewing for years. My favorite is one time when they said they caught spy pigeons trained by Israel. Spy sharks, trained by Israel. Spy dolphins, trained by, you name it, they have come up with it. Well, Nicholas Kristof believed one of these lies. In fact, he believed many of these lies. And he wrote this completely false article in the New York Times, which the New York Times published, alleging that Israeli security guards were abusing Palestinian prisoners in jails, even though he admits multiple times during the article he has no proof of any of this. Even though some of his sources are convicted terrorists and Hamas, and then he admits he has no proof of any of this, they still published it. Do you know what it takes to get an op-ed published in the New York Times? I know what it takes to get an op-ed published in the New York Post. Multiple revisions, fact-checking, you name it. You have to do the same kind of thing with the New York Times. They didn't fact-check any of this. They published it. Why did they publish this? Is it because they love the Palestinians so much? Is it because they hate Israel so much? Yes and yes. But there's another reason why. There's an article, and I know this article exists because my wife works for Jewish News Syndicate, which is a Jewish news outlet. There's an article that's been under embargo. What happens is sometimes they have an article they want to release at the same time to everybody, but they know it's going to take you a lot of time to digest it and write it up. So the information they give you in advance. Apparently, there is a new report out, and the new report is the most comprehensive report of all the atrocities that Hamas committed of sexual violence on October 7th. There is now a massive database of testimony, of pictures, of doctors' reports, of proof, documenting everything that those savages did to people at that Nova Festival and on that day. It is horrific. In fact, I've seen CNN write it up. I saw the Daily Mail write it up. All of them. They mention a few things, but nobody gets in depth. They all link to it, so you can go check it out. It is graphic. What is this thing really designed for? It's so that if victims or victims' families want to go after the people who funded October 7th, all the proof is right there. All the material is right there. Now, all major news outlets had this information weeks ago. They all had it. And they said, okay, here's the information. They had it. They were ready to go with it. And they just said it's under embargo. Don't publish it till this day. The New York Times knew this. So what they did was they published this stupid, false op-ed from Kristof so that people would be talking about his stupid op-ed rather than the sexual violence. And it's somewhat working. Anybody who was involved in publishing this should be fired. So interchangeable. The New York Times is not a news outlet, not a news agency. It's a propaganda piece. It is a modern-day blood libel. That's what it is. Yeah, no different than the Seattle Times. When we come back, my friends, the latest from our friends, Brian Heywood and John Carlson, on this whole controversy of the Seattle Times trying to defame Brandi Kruse. Let's go Washington. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I know that when I used to hear that music in the morning, I knew whose voice I was going to hear right after it. No, not mine. I was going to hear the legendary John Carlson. He joins us now on the Warrior Injury Law studio line. John, welcome back to the show, my man.
Boy, I haven't heard that song in a little while. Good afternoon, Ari.
Good afternoon, John. So tell us about the magical land that is Bellevue across the lake. How is it over there when you're not in Seattle?
Well, you know what it's like in Seattle? It's different here.
Different, just different, cleaner, nicer. Police are around, right? Less graffiti, right?
Yes. It is a perfect example of how public policy drives culture and public policy drives results that are very different from one place to another. In terms of drugs, crime, homelessness, the quality of the schools, Bellevue geographically is 6 miles away. It may as well be in another state.
Yeah.
It is, like another, state among the 50 states. It is just a night and day difference. And the frustrating part about all this is that there's a way out for Seattle, okay? That not only is everything that they've been doing failing, and they should have figured that out by now. They should have figured it out 10, 12 years ago. But there are other cities really close by that are doing things differently and getting very different results. And they can be models for how to move in the right direction by emphasizing policies that make the city cleaner and make the city safer. And you just don't see that penetrating the political establishment that runs the city of Seattle and, frankly, King County, and, while we're at it, the legislative branch in Olympia.
Yep, exactly right. And speaking of the legislative branch in Olympia, we know that our friends over at Let's Go Washington have their initiatives. They are printing them up as we speak to send them to you. You should go sign up to get your initiative form to repeal the income tax over at letsgowashington.com. But right before this, you had these radical leftist activists who decided to file a public disclosure complaint, a public disclosure commission complaint, on our friends Brian Heywood, Let's Go Washington, and Brandi Kruse, alleging that she is giving them undisclosed in-kind donations by having them on her show. Now, John, this sounded really familiar to me because I remember a story from back in 2007 involving you and Kirby Wilbur about somebody trying the exact same thing. What happened?
They almost got away with it. They got away with it with the lower court judge. They didn't prevail. We didn't stop talking about the initiative. But what happened back in 2007 is Kirby and I, and this was an idea of Kirby's, decided to launch a crusade to repeal the just passed gas tax. I think it was 9.5 cents. And we didn't have any money. So we were encouraging people to get behind this drive to sign the initiative. And there was an initiative campaign, but most of the attention was being drawn every morning because Kirby was the morning host back then, and every afternoon during the commute with Carlson. Which is now, of course, the Ari Hoffman commute. Mm-hmm. And unbelievable, in 32 days, we got 400,000 signatures. Not one of them was paid for by signature gatherers.
Amazing.
It was all volunteer. And it really spooked the powers that be in the state capitol. And they responded by going to court and claiming that our commentary had the effect of advancing the campaign, and therefore it was campaign speech. And campaign speech can be monetized and subject to public disclosure restrictions on campaign contributions. So they were arguing that for the last 3 weeks of the campaign, Kirby Wilbur and I should only be allowed to talk about the biggest political news that year in an off-year election for 15 minutes a week.
Now, this is clearly a freedom of speech issue. We don't have any of the fairness nonsense anymore. None of that. It also lines up with conservative principles. So, of course, this is going to be something you're going to push, even if you guys weren't involved in the campaign at all whatsoever. So this went all the way to the Washington State Supreme Court, and I was shocked to see that the ACLU and other organizations signed on with you guys, and you won.
Well, that was back when even the political left understood that there is a larger principle at stake when it comes to free speech and the First Amendment. And yeah, the ACLU wrote a friend of the court brief on our behalf when a lower court judge said, well, yes, this does amount to helping the campaign, so they need to figure out what it's worth and give us an answer today, 1 day's notice, you monetize this. And it was appealed to the state Supreme Court. Get this, the state Supreme Court, even back then, had a distinctly liberal tilt. Today, it's not even a tilt. There's not a single conservative on our state Supreme Court. But back then, it was still liberal, but it was not uniform. And the vote that came out, 9-0 in favor of KVI radio.
Wow. So now looking at this case, which is almost identical, and I just actually got a statement in from this group that's trying to target Brandi and Brian and Let's Go Washington. Here's what they told me. We are familiar with the Washington State Supreme Court's decision in San Juan County versus no new gas tax. That case involved...
Sound like they are.
Yeah. I'm sure they looked at it. That case involved commentary that aired during regularly scheduled radio broadcasts. The court held that such commentary fell within the statutory media exemption. The complaint, they mean the new one, concerns recurring sponsorship arrangements, commercial advertiser relationships, branded content, and potential undisclosed in-kind support of a campaign by an influencer who collects payments for functioning as a brand ambassador for entities like Future 42, which is funded by this. Okay, I'm stopping with their nonsense right here because Brandi's show every single day at the exact same time. Brandi does the media clips. Brandi's very clear about who sponsors her show, who doesn't. She does that. It's very similar to a radio show. They're trying to claim that she's not a journalist.
We can cut to the chase here, Ari. What they're saying is radio hosts are protected. Podcast hosts are not.
Mm-hmm. So they're trying to have this fight again is what it sounds like.
Yeah, basically what they're saying is they're making pretty much the same arguments that our critics were making, except technology has changed. And in addition to radio hosts and radio broadcasts, there's now podcasters and podcasting. So Brandi or any other podcaster on the right or left is deserving of the same First Amendment protections as we are. And by the way, what they're saying is, well, this guy, advertises on Brandi's show. Well, we had campaigns advertising on KVI.
Mm-hmm.
Are we supposed to no longer talk about anything if it pertains to a campaign that a candidate is bought a commercial for?
I got a better one, John. What about all those sponsorships the Seattle Times gets? What about all those other liberal podcasters like the former Stranger Writers or whoever they are talking about this stuff, talking about issues? By this logic, we could file PDC complaints against all of them.
Yeah. I mean, the bottom line is Brandi Kruse is every bit as much a journalist as her journalism critics, except she's a better one.
That's the line right there. That's the tagline for the interview right there. The legendary John Carlson, thank you so much for the stroll down memory lane and your insight, my friend.
She's going to win, by the way.
I think you're right. I think
Randy's
you're
gonna
100%
win.
right.
Okay, thanks, Ari.
Appreciate it, John. Take care. Stay safe out there in Bellevue. Well, Bellevue is nicer than Seattle.
That's not hard to do.
We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues, including a new public school banning police officers. I'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, my friends, to make sure you subscribe to the Ari Hoffman Show on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Remember, also check us out at kvi.com, where you can stream the show. You can listen to the podcast. You can also sign up to become a KVI insider, so that way you never miss an event or anything else that's going on over at KVI. And we promise not to spam you with emails. So we kind of knew this was coming, but I don't want to say it's shocking. It's unsurprising, as a matter of fact, but I can't believe people are still doubling down on stupid. Last night, the North Shore School District voted to reject a new contract for the School Resource Officer Program at Bothell High School, ending more than a 30-year partnership with local police, despite pleas from students, parents, and school staff to keep the officer on campus. So what they do? They just defunded the police. What do you have in its place, guys? You have security guards, you have fencing, you have cameras, you have robots. What do you have instead? Is there a backup plan? What is the backup plan? Because we know what happened when you did this in other places. In a contentious Monday evening meeting, with more than an hour of public testimony, the North Shore School Board voted against renewing a contract for Officer Garrett Ware, the Bothell Police Department officer who has served as Bothell High School's armed school resource officer since 2017. Bothell High was the last remaining campus in the district with a school resource officer after North Shore eliminated the program at Woodinville High School in 2022. The decision comes amid growing concerns over school violence across the Seattle region, while several high-profile shootings, campus security failures have fueled renewed debate over the removal of police from schools. According to Como News, during the public comment period, students, parents, and community members urged the board to preserve the program, arguing that Officer Ware played a vital role in maintaining campus safety and building relationships with students. I want to stop right there for a second. At my synagogue on a Saturday, we have the same crop of security guards from the same company, so the kids at this point know them. And they have their favorites, and they have the ones who they're friends with, they have the ones that they chat with, and the security guards can give a little inspiration, a little scolding if needed. They're good guys. I mean, they're not paid for the scolding or the inspiration, but that's what they do when they're standing around. I walked up to synagogue 2 weeks ago, literally 2 weeks ago, and the benches that are outside the synagogue, I saw the security guard there surrounded by 7 or 8 kids who all just wanted to hang out with the security guard because their friend was there, and they all wanted to talk to him before youth groups started at the synagogue. When I grew up as a kid going to Jewish schools, we always had security guards, and they were our friends as well. They were our friends. That's how you actually have a functional relationship with the police, but also it's how you appreciate what they deal with. It's how you appreciate that they're your guy. I know every day when I show up to my daughter's school, there's always the security guards there. We always say hi. We always say thank you. We always say how you doing. He's the kid's friends. Why do you not want that? Why do you not want security on campus? And what are you going to replace it with? District administrators, including the school's principal, had recommended keeping the school resource program following the district's annual review process. So let me make sure I got this right. Parents, students, teachers, administration all want to keep it, but the school board said no. One school board member argued that some students may see a school resource officer as a trusted confidant without fully understanding that information shared with law enforcement could later carry legal consequences. What'd you do, kid? What'd you do? Hey, guess what? Posting on social media can carry legal consequences as well. Another board member claimed there were members of the community opposed to the SRO program who felt uncomfortable speaking publicly during the heated debate. Okay, did you send anonymous emails? Or are you just representing the so silent majority they don't exist? Is that what it was? So this vote has been going downhill for years, and now they voted against it. Meanwhile, Seattle Public Schools, they banned police from campus in 2020, claiming racial disparities and, whatever other nonsense after George Floyd. So we had Garfield High School has had, 3-4 shootings? We had 2 kids killed at Rainier Beach High School. Violence at Nathan Hale. How much more do you need? Good luck, Bothell High School. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, the latest local controversy trying to stop the repeal of the income tax. We'll talk to Brian Heywood, plus so much more. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show's final hour free for all. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Brandi Kruse will be joining us to weigh in on the insanity the left is trying to do to derail the effort to repeal the income tax. But before we get to any of that, I think it's important to revisit exactly what is going on here today. So what happened yesterday was this activist group that seems to only go live once every 2 or 3 years. They decided to file a Public Disclosure Commission complaint against Brandi Kruse, Brian Heywood, and Let's Go Washington. What are they alleging? They are alleging that Brandi Kruse failed to declare in-kind political advertising valued between $345,000 and $1.25 million to Brandi's show. Let's do full disclosure here, shall we? My ideals are in line with Let's Go Washington. They're the ones who have the initiative to keep boys out of girls' sports. They're the ones who have the initiative to keep parents informed of what's going on in schools. They're the ones who had the initiative to reinstate police pursuits. They're the ones who are currently, right now, launching the effort to repeal the income tax. Let's Go Washington has advertised on my show several times, but I do this for free. I speak at their events for free. I go to their events for free because, as I say all the time, I believe in the cause. Brandi also believes in the cause, which is why she has Brian Heywood on her show, which is why she talks about Let's Go Washington initiatives, which is why she goes to Let's Go Washington events, specifically because she believes in the cause. I think that the number one opponent of boys in girls sports here in Washington is Brandi. I think it's Brandi. I think that the girls who are fighting this in the schools have no greater ally than Brandi Kruse in this fight. I truly, truly believe that. Even though we go to the same events, do the same things, this is Brandi's issue. And she has wrapped her arms completely around it. These girls who will stand up for girls' sports the way no Democrat in the state ever will. Democrats are cowards. They're afraid to even meet with girls who are trying to protect women's sports. So what happens? You have Washingtonians for Ethical Government, which seems to only go live every couple of years when they want to make trouble. They are now filing a PDC complaint. And you say, Ari, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is if the PDC decides to go forward with an investigation, that means now you got to spend time. You might have to get some lawyers. You might have to fight this thing. How do I know? We just had John Carlson on a couple segments ago. The same thing happened to him and Kirby Wilbur in 2007. Him and Kirby Wilbur, when they were the host of KVI, were trying to stop a gas tax. And they said, we're going to push this on the radio all the time because we believe in stopping the gas tax. And what happened was cities like Seattle, Kent, Auburn, and San Juan County said, we want the gas tax. So they filed a PDC complaint and tried to stop John Carlson and Kirby Wilbur from talking about it. They made it their life's mission to stop these guys from talking. Well, you get free speech. And even back then, the Washington State Supreme Court ruled unanimously in their favor that these guys get to say what they want. And you guys are really just trying to stifle free speech. That's exactly what this is. Because if Brandi Kruse has to spend the time defending herself in court or defending herself to the PDC, she can't do as much as she normally would with Let's Go Washington. If she gets fined, if she has to pay for lawyers, they're now taking money out of her pocket, trying to disincentivize her from working with Let's Go Washington. If you ever met Brandi, you know this ain't going to work. This ain't going to work. The same tricks have been tried on me before. People who wanted me to stop talking about local Hamasniks and the violence they were causing, I have been targeted with lawsuits over this. This is what they do. I've had threats from the left. This is what they do. And they're also trying to change the conversation. Brandi is very, very popular. Let's Go Washington, picks issues that are 80-20 issues that are very, very popular. And that's why people vote for them. And they see the popularity of these initiatives. So what they are trying to do, in conjunction with the Seattle Times, is smear Brandi, smear Brian Heywood, and smear Let's Go Washington. So that you will think, oh, they're doing something illegal. The PDC has not even opened an investigation yet. All these guys did was submit a complaint. I called the PDC today. They said they haven't even looked at it yet. But these guys from the Washingtonians for Ethical Government, they claim, look what we did, and they hold a whole press conference. What did they say during the press conference? This is Pam Stewart. Pam Stewart, who claims to be the communication liaison for the Washingtonians for Ethical Government, who also happens to be a city council member in Sammamish. Wonder why she wants an income tax. This is what she said when she got asked a question by Carlene Johnson from the Center Square.
She can go and endorse something or speak against it or whatever, right? That doesn't mean that she's getting paid by Let's Go Washington. So if you're asserting that she is, I mean, that's you got to have proof of that, or it would seem to be pretty defamatory allegation.
Well, I think there's a fundamental principle in that Ms. Kruse is no longer a journalist. She is now a paid online influencer. And that assertion is supported by both the state and federal courts when she was denied press credentials. So she now makes her living through online influencing. She's not considered a journalist anymore.
Interesting. Who else was denied their press credentials? Me and Jonathan Cho. So are they coming after me next? Because the last time they tried something like this against KVI, they got a unanimous decision against them at the Washington State Supreme Court. Does this mean I'm next? Oh, now you see what's going on here. You had the Washington State Capitol Correspondents Association deny us press passes to claim we're not journalists, so we don't get access. And now this same group is using that to claim, oh, no, we know about that KVI case. We know about that one, but that's a radio station. She's a podcaster. She's an influencer. It doesn't count. We need to do this case again. Because they want Brandi paying for lawyers. They want Brandi's time. They want Let's Go Washington paying for lawyers. They want Brian Heywood paying for lawyers. They want them distracted from the real mission, which is keeping boys out of girls' sports, passing that initiative, which is making sure there's parental rights, that you know what's going on with your kids at school, and repealing the income tax. Because for every dollar that is spent defending themselves, that's a dollar not being spent on the campaign. What's worse yet is after that press conference today, within 15 minutes, the Seattle Times had an article up. Within 15 minutes? The Seattle Times doesn't work that quickly, even with breaking news. I never get my breaking news from the Seattle Times. I get my breaking news from other people. Took the Seattle Times close to 30 hours to write up Howard Schultz's op-ed demonizing Seattle socialist policies and Katie Wilson. No way they got this up in 15 minutes unless, well, you do the math yourselves. The Seattle Times, by the way, one of the ones funding the effort to keep me, Brandi, and Jonathan Cho from having our press passes. Do you see what's going on here? Let's Go Washington today rolled out the initiative with the titles. You can go to letsgowashington.com to repeal the income tax, and we got to get hundreds of thousands of signatures before the deadline, which is July 2nd, which means we need them in hand before people go away for July 4th weekend. You can go to letsgowashington.com and request those signature sheets today to repeal the income tax. You go to letsgowashington.com. They will send them to you with an envelope that you can send right back to them. All you have to do is put your name on it, put your address, put your information, send it right back to them. I already requested mine. You can do the exact same thing. Takes 30 seconds. That's all you got to do. If you want extra sheets for your friends, that's fine. Hold on to those and do that. This is a targeted campaign. They're using the Seattle Times to do it. Who are the people behind this targeted campaign? Well, one of them is named Kristen Hides. So I looked up Kristen Hides. She runs a counseling company which does online therapy celebrating the queer, feminist, neurodiverse allies and questioning with inclusive therapists in BC and Ontario. Wait, Wait. Okay. BC, British Columbia, and Ontario? What are you messing around in our state for? What are you messing around in our country for? You like Canada? Stay in Canada. But also, why do you think the person who has therapy celebrating the queer, feminist, neurodiverse allies and questioning with inclusive therapists could possibly want to keep boys and girls sports and not have parents know about it? Let's just throw that one out there for a second. Then there's Laura Galindo Palomera, who is a Chicana with an X. Okay. All right, we see what's going on here. Who also works for an organization for the Northwest Workers Justice Program, which I can't tell if is communist or for illegal aliens. Can't tell. Then there's Heather Weiner, who's running this whole show. There's a picture of Kristen Hyde, Heather Weiner, with Katie Wilson. There's a picture of them at an SEIU conference. Ah, yes, the union folk. With them at this conference. These are the ones running this political campaign. She wrote, "Congratulations to Mayor-elect Katie Wilson. Could not be more excited about Seattle electing our first progressive woman mayor in a century. And I'm grateful to Carrie Moon and Lorena Gonzalez for cracking the glass ceiling so Katie could break through." Carrie Moon lost. Lorena Gonzalez lost. And Jenny Durkin was a progressive. Oh, she's not progressive enough for you. I understand. This is a targeted smear campaign. This is a targeted attack to try and stop the income tax repeal, to try and stop the effort to keep boys out of girls' sports, to try and stop the effort for parents to know what's going on in public schools. That's what this is. It is a targeted attack. Right after the press conference these guys ran, Let's Go Washington had a press conference today about the income tax. We had a chance to speak to Brian Heywood, founder of Let's Go Washington, a little bit earlier today. Give a listen.
Hey, we appreciate you covering this. Exercising your free speech rights to talk about things that matter to you and to your listeners.
I know. I mean, somebody might even see this as a campaign contribution. Who knows? So what was interesting about your press conference today, you had a friend of the show, Jesse Proudman from Venice AI, talking about what this is going to do to the tech company if it stays in place and we don't repeal it. Give us a little brief summary of the presser today.
Well, yeah, so we sort of walked through what we're going to do. But we had a couple of people that were impacted by this. Jesse, one of the leaders of the tech startups in Seattle, talked about how they sort of set up here because it was so attractive and it's the right place to set up this kind of business. And what this income tax does is basically penalize and discourage anyone from following in their footsteps and doing any other startups here, and that it is going to be, in his view, I think, really detrimental to the economic growth and innovation that has been the hallmark of Washington State and Seattle in particular.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And I know that he's having to have these hard discussions with his spouse. Like, do we stay here or do we get out of here? Because this is specifically targeting people that are successful for now, right? And that was the second. We had Viet Nguyen that talked about, he actually used to work for Gary Locke. He was a Democrat campaign guy, and got disillusioned with the Democrat machine and sort of went in. And I mean, he was actually in Democrat politics, and he really walked through the case that we're making, which is this income tax is not staying on high earners. This is designed with 300 employees and $500 million in allocation to it. This is designed to go and hit everybody. And he's not ever going to make the million, he said, but he very much understands that this is coming for everybody. And he's up for the fight. So it was really great to have him on there as well.
Yeah, it absolutely was. Seeing the two of them there speaking from the perspective of every person in business, every person who makes a living, who's worried this tax is going to affect them. I actually saw one of them said, look, I don't make $1 million. I'm probably not going to make $1 million, but I know that this thing eventually is going to come for me and it's going to destroy businesses around here. Now, Brian, I don't know if you noticed that I did, but the Seattle Times was very, very quick to report on a campaign targeting you and Brandi Kruse at the PDC where they're alleging that by you going on her show and by her being at your events, that that's somehow an illegal campaign contribution. But I happened to look up a law, and there was a case just like this against John Carlson and Kirby Wilbur with KVI, where they were fighting a gas tax, and somebody filed a PDC complaint claiming it was an illegal campaign contribution. They have no case here. This seems like it's just harassment.
It's absolutely harassment. If you look at who's behind it, there's a couple things that stood out to me. Number one, the people behind it have masked everybody who has the money that's funding them to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So they're sort of guilty of the very thing that they're trying to accuse other people of. Number two, when I saw number two is like if you look at the PR group, which is this Powerhouse Strategies, it is a super progressive left-wing friends of Katie Wilson. They've got Wiener is the last name of the woman that's running the thing, and she's got photos all over her Facebook page. I think you might even have posted those, right, of her with Katie Wilson.
Mm-hmm. And SEIU tags. Yeah,
SEIU all over the place. And then if you look at the Powerhouse Strategies website, their clients are public union, public sector union, and all of these guys are pigs at the trough. They're people who hold with their hands out, and not even their hands out, their hands in our pockets, taking taxpayer money to fund their political and sort of power games in the unions. So it really struck me that the group that's aligned us are the very ones that are looking to get some of the slop from the pig trough. And then the final thing that I noticed in their press release, they at the very end, they said, look, if the PDC doesn't uphold this, then we're going to complain that it should, right?
Mm-hmm.
That the law should be changed. I think it's an admission by them very clearly that they know that this is not a violation of any PDC rules. They're doing it to make a big case, to try to smear us and try to fight the free speech and try to smear my reputation, try to smear Brandi's reputation. Maybe they're afraid of you, Ari. They should have gone after you, right? They might be afraid. Like, I don't know.
I was going to say, I was standing next to you at a few of those events. I was standing next to Brandi at a few of those events. Either they've read this case and are choosing to ignore it, or they're just lining up to come after everybody who does this next. We don't even know which way this is going to go. In the last few minutes, we have with Brian Heywood, founder of Let's Go Washington. So let's focus on the big issue, repealing the income tax. You have how many days to get how many signatures, and how can people help?
51 days to get 400,000 signatures. That 400 is the number that's over, enough extra that there's anyone that signs accidentally twice or is not registered to vote. We cover them, but we've got until July 2nd to make this happen. So we need people to come onto our website right now to letsgowa.com, sign up, and we're going to start printing and sending. We're printing today. We'll be shipping maybe by Monday. We'll have some of these going out all over the whole state. We'll have some stuff going out today, and definitely by Monday we'll have stuff that'll be in the mail on its way.
So, my friends, I will tell you, do exactly what I do. Take that first sheet. You, your spouse, your kids, whoever, fill that thing out with the people in your house, send it back. Then after that, if you want to go get signatures and you want to help with that, go ahead and do it, because what we don't want to happen is that thing sit on a desk drawer, you forget about it, and you don't mail it back. Head on over to letsgowashington.com right now, request the signature sheets so you can get them filled out and we can repeal the income tax together. Brian Heywood from Let's Go Washington, thank you so much for joining us today. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Ari. We appreciate all your listeners do. They make the difference here.
One more time, guys, go to letsgowashington.com. That's letsgowashington.com, because you can help repeal this thing. We're not going to be able to do it without you. Up next, my friends, some more local news. Terrible tragedy over at a bar in Seattle. We have a suspect who's now in custody and been charged. We'll have those details for you when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, we are running a contest for you to win count them 4 tickets to the Bremerton Air Show over at KVI.com. You give us a little bit of your personal information, you might win a chance to get 4 tickets to the Bremerton Air Show July 11th through 12th at the Bremerton Airport. We'll be out there on the 12th, actually, so you get to hang out with us as well. So head on over to KVI.com. This contest is only available over at KVI.com. So yesterday we were talking about this shooting in North Seattle at the Growler Bar. And what this is sounding like more and more. Kevin had a chance to peruse some of the charging documents during the break. I was looking at them a little bit. It sounds like this is some kind of after-hours hangout gone wrong. That's what this sounds like. It sounds like
looking at the documents. I was reading Como's story on it.
Yeah. So Kevin was reading Como's story on that. I have the charging documents here in front of me. And what this really sounds like, it sounds like a group of people went to a hookah bar down the street, come back to Growlers, and in Growlers, they're there after hours. They're not hanging out while the bar's open. The employee, it seems, let everybody in to hang out in the bar, and then some kind of fight took place, and somebody ended up shooting somebody. So yesterday when it was, oh my God, who shot the employee? Were they mugged? Was it a homeless guy? That doesn't really seem to be what it was. It seems like it was a group of people hanging out in the bar and some kind of argument took place, whether they were drunk or who knows what it was. Something went wrong there. That's more what it sounds like happened. Right, Kevin?
Yeah, and it sounds like the suspect and his attorney are claiming that it was self-defense.
Self-defense.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this isn't how anybody was painting it. I'm glad we didn't really get too deep into it yesterday because something just didn't sound right about it from the get-go. This is why we usually wait for the court docs to find out these things, because the 3 who were there's 2 guys and a girl who were there for around an hour in the bar drinking, and then this all went down. And now it's a he said, she said, he said in the bar of what actually happened. That's why these court documents are so long, because you've got the police report of what actually happened. So this sounds, it's not domestic. Some friend thing. I don't know what you'd actually call this. But whatever the case may be, it doesn't sound like a typical Seattle crime where some homeless guy or some robber or mugger or something comes along. It sounds like everybody here knew each other, or at least were recently acquainted with each other, be hanging out in the bar.
Yeah, it says the attorney for the suspect said that he was trying to turn himself in on Saturday, but no one from the Seattle police answered the phone until Monday.
Yikes.
Is what they're claiming.
So hang on. I've had this experience before. When you call 911, sometimes they bump you over to the non-emergency line because it's not an emergency, and you're trying to go settle with the police or whatever it is, trying to get a hold of somebody. But it's the weekend. It's the weekend because in Seattle we don't have enough police officers because we're down, 700-800 of them at last count. So yeah, things like that happen. Things like that happen. This is a tragedy, absolutely a tragedy, but now the attorneys are going to battle out. And we'll see how this actually shakes out. When we come back, my friends, Brandi Kruse joins us. We'll get her take on this whole controversy with the left attacking her, Brian Heywood, and Let's Go Washington. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. we assume that when we're having political discussions or disagreements, that these disagreements are in good faith, that it's just who has the best ideas, who has the best policies. Unfortunately, around here in Washington, it seems like more often than not, it's not about that at all. It's about destroying the other person. And normally that only goes in one direction, where it is the left trying to destroy any opposition, trying to stop anybody who dares to speak out against them. And the way that you know you're effective is when they start coming after you. Joining us now to discuss on the Warrior Injury Law Studio Line, host of the Undivided Podcast, the one and only Brandi Kruse. How you doing today?
Oh, I am good. In fact, I'm somewhere where I think you would be interested in what I'm doing. I'm at the Bellevue City Council meeting.
Are you? You might recognize a family member of mine who's hanging out over there right now.
Well, I'll have to have them flag me down, but I guess I just broadcast my location, which send the lefties to come hurt me. But
yes, because they're coming after Adam Smith tonight. There's an ordinance out in Bellevue that's going to restrict targeted protesting at his house because they've been showing up at 3 a.m. all the time over there. So, yeah, crazy stuff. The activists said they're going to be showing up. But back to this story here. So let me just start at the top here. The activists are now claiming that you gave undisclosed in-kind donations to Let's Go Washington, which is nonsense. How desperate are they?
yeah, it's insane. And the thing is what I wish everybody would have realized when they did this isn't meant to be a complaint that actually has merit. It's not going to be something that goes anywhere because, of course, the First Amendment, is kind of the thing still. But it's not the point of it. The point of it is just to put it out there. Put it out there and let the media do their dirty work and write the headlines. And, once the toothpaste's out of the tube, you're trying to instill this idea in people's minds that somehow my opposition to letting boys compete in girls' sports or my support of parental rights isn't from my heart. It's driven by some sort of other financial motivation. And because you've also, been a very vocal supporter of protecting girls and parents, and you've been at some of these events with me, that we haven't been paid a dime. Nobody has to pay me to take the position that boys aren't girls. That's 80% of the American populace. But what this left-wing organization is claiming, again, I don't even think they believe it, but what they're claiming is that because on my podcast we have advertisers, they're saying I've now assigned a price, basically, to my voice and to my opinions, and therefore I can have no opinion that doesn't have a value. And so they say that my support of the initiatives thus far has an equivalent value of $1.25 million. I don't know how they came up with that figure, which is absurd. So what they're saying is I can never have another political opinion unless it's regulated by the state and I report it as an in-kind contribution to whosever issue or whatever candidate I might be supporting.
So let me make sure I got this right. I'm hearing from this that you need to up your speaking fees because the left values you at that much money. That's what I'm hearing. You need to up the value for advertising on your show because that's how much they value you. It seems to me wherever they grab that from, my guess would be like they asked for radio ads or TV ads or something to put that out there. They just came up with this number to try and demonize you and Let's Go Washington.
Well, right. That's all it is. And successful because if I were, back in my old job in legacy news and I saw something like this, I would go to the source and think, okay, what's the credibility of this? And this was put out by an entity called Powerhouse Strategists. And they are a far left political strategy firm that has and is opposing the Let's Go Washington initiatives. And so I would have said, okay, obviously this is just a politically motivated attack piece, but that's not how the mainstream media works. It's a press release vilifying conservatives and vilifying me, a very frequent critic of legacy news. So they gave it a ton of attention today. The Seattle Times article on this alone, it took 7 paragraphs before they even mentioned that I deny the allegations, that I've never been paid anything to support the initiatives. 7 paragraphs. And nowhere in the article do they say who's behind it. Nowhere do they actually say who's behind this they have a name for this group. It's like the Washingtonians for an Ethical Government. which sounds really nice, right? No, but it's run by a left-wing organization that opposes the initiatives. They just use that name because it sounds bipartisan. Nowhere in the Seattle Times article do they mention that Powerhouse Strategies, which is the political strategy firm that opposes the initiatives, is actually behind the effort. And they know they are, because Powerhouse Strategies is the entity that put out the press release with their name on it.
And also, here's something else. Brandi, I know you have a lot of news sources. For me, the Seattle Times is usually not one of them, but certainly not for breaking news. I mean, it took them almost 30 hours to write up the Howard Schultz op-ed calling out Katie Wilson and her socialist policies. The fact that this article came out 15 minutes after their press conference ended, 14 minutes after their press conference ended, no way they got that done that quickly.
Well, now, the Seattle Times did contact me yesterday and ask me for a comment, to which I told Ryan Wynn, the reporter on the story, you're being used. You realize you're being used so that you'll put out some headline making me sound bad, so people won't trust me that my opposition to the Democratic policies are genuine. And I also gave a statement or whatever it is. So they basically started writing up the story yesterday just based on these allegations. And then, went to the, virtual press conference today just to check a box and then publish their story. It's very clear.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I did get a statement from these guys who wouldn't let me go to the press conference this morning, didn't invite me to the press conference, and then when I did get the link, wouldn't let me into the press conference, so we know how much they really value that. And I said to them, I actually wrote to them, so since I was not invited to the press conference today, I was hoping you could answer one question for me. How is this PDC claim not malicious targeting Brandi Kruse, Let's Go Washington, and Brian Heywood, given that the Washington State Supreme Court ruled on this exact situation already, which they did in 2007, specifically regarding John Carlson and Kirby Wilbur on KVI trying to repeal a gas tax? It's the exact same situation. We had John on earlier to talk about this. Now, they wrote back to me that they are familiar with this case. The case involved commentary that aired during regularly scheduled radio broadcasts. Brandi, correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't your show air at the same time every day?
Yes, noon every day, noon every day.
Just making sure. We're going to debunk this along the way here, okay?
Yes.
The court held that such commentary fell within the statutory media exemption. Aren't you a member of the media, Brandi?
I am, and they like to use this phrase. Brandi says she's not a journalist. And that's true because I'm responsible. I have made clear to say I'm not a journalist, I'm a political commentator. And a reporter, because to me, I want people to understand that I do think journalist is a title that should be given to people who are impartial and who are doing, journalism. But they're so obtuse about it because the press is a bunch of things. The overarching umbrella is the press, right? The free press that the First Amendment is made for. And under that umbrella are a ton of things. There are journalists. There are editorialists. There are now podcasters and bloggers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they think that the only people who are protected by the First Amendment are quote unquote journalists, when my argument is and has always been that anyone who is engaged in the dissemination of news and information is a member of the press.
We're talking with Brandi Kruse, who's the host of the Undivided podcast, and you have all these lunatics on the left coming after her, which means clearly she's over the target. Now, Brandi, if I'm not mistaken, the Seattle Times, including the article written about this, was paid for by sponsors, the Ballmer Group, the Gates Foundation. So for them to claim that you're somehow violating this when their article and person who's writing it, I guess whatever they define that person is literally getting sponsorship. Isn't that the pot calling the kettle black?
Yeah, it's amazing. And there's all this. Look, I understand that I do something like fairly unique locally. I mean, there's a lot of people nationally who do what I do, but I understand that maybe it's a unique thing for Washington State to have, a podcaster, but more of a business model around it, right? But my revenue streams are exactly the same as the Seattle Times. And I would argue they're definitely less shady than the Times because I don't do, like you mentioned, they have the education lab and the climate lab. They have people and groups that fund specific brands of reporting for them. Now, it doesn't bother me because they say that they don't have editorial control over the content, which I don't have any proof that they do, right? But my revenue streams are really twofold. I have paid subscriptions, like the Seattle Times, people pay $5 a month for the show. And then I have advertising revenue. And most newsrooms in the nation have that exact same funding model. I don't have any sort of secret backdoor funding. Advertisers, paid subscriptions. And so, and then, I don't have this extra little thing that the Times has of these, Gates Foundation, Ballmer Group, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, I mean, the whole thing is a nothing burger. They know it's a nothing burger, but they are very worried, I guess. I guess I should be flattered by it. But they're experiencing pushback in a way they've never experienced before, and they're losing their ever-loving minds.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. Now, the conspiracy theorist in me says, was this whole mess with our press passes, you, me, and Jonathan Cho, tied to this, or is it just we're going to fight them every way we can? What do you think?
Absolutely tied to it, and I believe that after today. So this woman who, was giving the press conference today, who actually happens to be a sitting Sammamish city councilwoman, which is absolutely insane. Her name is Pam Stewart. She said in here, because she was asked by a reporter from the Center Square, Carlene Johnson, isn't it kind of defamation to accuse Brandi of being paid in some backdoor way for these things when you have no proof of that? And she goes on this rant about how, well, I'm not a journalist because state and federal courts have decided that I'm not a journalist, which of course is untrue. Mm-hmm. The courts are still weighing our case on our press passes. But the fact that she used that tells me this was all part of an elaborate scheme, that they're like, let's make sure the courts, friendly courts, decide they're not members of the press, and then we can go and try to regulate their speech. And it's me today, but it's you tomorrow. It's some of our other friends after that. Anyone who steps out of line and makes life difficult for them is going to get this sort of treatment. And it's sick for the legacy news, which should be firm defenders of the First Amendment. It's sick for them to help perpetuate this nonsense.
It's sick, but not surprising. And I was actually talking to people around here, and I said, yeah, you guys know that we're next. This is something they're probably going to come knocking at our door next and then go after some of our other friends because they can't handle the pushback. So everybody who's listening right now, I have some action items for you. 1, if you are still paying for a subscription to the Seattle Times, you need to cancel it immediately because you are funding the problem and the people who endorse the income tax. So you need to do that, number 1. Number 2, you need to go subscribe to Brandi's podcast because you'll be saving money by doing that, and you'll get a better news source. And number 3, you need to go to letsgowashington.com, and you need to request the initiative signature sheets so that way you can go out and help repeal the income tax. Brandi, I'm sorry this is happening to you, but at the same time, if you're taking flack, you're over the target, and this must actually really validate everything that you do.
Yeah, definitely. And it also, I think, reinvigorates me. And I was like, I'm having a relaxing summer. And I'm like, I guess not, because now there's a third initiative to repeal the income tax. And this just makes me want to go out there and advocate more for these policies that I believe in. And we're going to do that.
Sounds like it's going to be a very exciting summer of Sundays with these events. So I look forward to seeing you there for our undisclosed campaign in-kind contributions when we're out there. Brandi Kruse, host of the Undivided Podcast, thank you so much for joining us today. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news headlines put a smile on your face heading into your evening commute. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And I'll say is just because we've been discussing this all day, is that if you're taking flack, you're over the target. And the fact that the left is trying so hard to shut down Brandi and shut down Brian Heywood and shut down Let's Go Washington shows that they're really afraid that we might be successful in repealing that income tax and keeping boys out of girls' sports and guaranteeing parental rights. And that's because of all of you and all your efforts. So I'm going to say this one more time. Today, at least. We'll be talking about this a lot more in the future. Go to letsgowashington.com. Request those signature gathering sheets. Fill out one for yourself, your spouse, whoever's in the house. Send it back. Then get the rest of them. Then go collecting more. But the more they have to work, the more money they have to spend getting the signature sheets in. Means the less money they have for the actual campaign itself. So make their lives easier. Get those signatures, get them in as soon as possible. Otherwise, they got to come chasing them down from you. They're going to throw millions of dollars at this because the Democrats are going to say it's worth the investment because we'll get billions, trillions of dollars from the income tax in the future. So that's what they're going to do. And I'll tell you something, guys. This is the last chance to save Washington. This is the last chance to save Washington. After this, businesses out of here. Wealth out of here. It's going to be a ghost town. We're already seeing that piece by piece. Now, in actual good news around here, you might remember after October 7th, we had John Ondrasik over on the show. He's the American singer-songwriter behind the song Superman, which is the group Five for Fighting. He's the guy behind all that. He wrote the song Superman after 9/11, and he rewrote it, and he's not Jewish. He rewrote it in honor of Alon Ohel, who is a pianist who was kidnapped from the Nova Music Festival on October 7th. And he said he hoped for one day to be able to play the song with Alon when Alon was rescued, when Alon was returned, however it was. Well, Alon Ohel was rescued and returned. And actually, John sent me a DM last night, and he said, check this out. And it was him playing the piano with Alon at a concert. Give a listen.
Every night, I would close my set with the Superman video for Alone and the Hostages. And I would give a little context of how it came about and the fact that Alone is a much better piano player than me. And I would close, before I played the song, with these words. I would say, and we all hope and pray for the day that I can sit down at a piano with Alone and sing Superman. We prayed for that miracle. We hope for that miracle.
And it's here.
And my friends, that miracle is right now. Please welcome Alon Ohel!
Listen to the reception that kid's getting. Walking on stage. And the fact that he's still even interested in hanging out with people after being a hostage, it's incredible. Really incredible. So he walks out on the stage. He's going to talk in broken English in a second because his English ain't that great. Hang on one second here.
Thank you so much.
I like that round of applause he's getting there.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. It's really a victory to me to sit here and play with you. And you have a part of that. So thank you so much for having me. And I hope you enjoy.
And then they went on to play the song, which it's longer than the time we have left, so I'm not playing the whole thing for you. But you can download the single on Spotify or wherever you get your music. It is available from Five for Fighting, the Superman song, and the special edition with Alon Ohel, which is just a beautiful, beautiful story. There are all these books being written about what happened in the aftermath of October 7th. Me personally, I'm looking forward for the movie. Operation Grim Beeper, I want to see the movie behind that. How they get the beepers, how they sell them to Hezbollah. I want to see that. Then I want to see the one about the bombing of the nuclear reactors. I want to see all the movies. They make movies about this. I want to see every single one of them. You remember after 9/11, all these 9/11 movies came out. None of them were really good. Was there a single good 9/11 movie? I hope it's not like that. Give me the good stuff. I mean, I hope it's not like Titanic where you wait 100 years before making a good movie about it. Yeah, I know people like A Night to Remember. I get that, but it's a little dated, okay? Yeah, hopefully we don't have to wait that long for the movies in these. I actually hear some have some scripts being shopped out right now. Operation Grim Beeper, I will pay whatever it costs to go see that movie. I think you make it a comedy, it'll be even more fun. Do you think comedy or action? You think you make it like in the Jack Ryan type style, something like that, or you think you make it more Super Troopers, kind of comedic? Hogan's Heroes, F Troop, something like that. Yeah, maybe the action way is the way to go. But I would watch any of these. I really, really would, and I hope we see them. But also these inspirational stories, they're everywhere now because the hostages are home. And they're resuming their lives that were interrupted, stolen from a lot of them right now. There's some really inspirational stuff. And if you're tired of seeing all the stuff that just depresses you on social media, go looking for some of these videos because there's some really great stuff out there. Like Alone, playing the piano with John Ondrasik from Five for Fighting, and they're playing that Superman song. It'll bring a tear to your eye. I guarantee it. But in a good way, not in a sad way. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us today. But tomorrow, we have some exciting guests for you. There is an event scheduled for the University of Washington about a detransitioner who's coming there to talk, and apparently the activists are not happy about that. So we're going to have the interview with her and find out what the activists are so mad about. Plus, we also have one of the editors of the New York Post is going to be joining us tomorrow. And, of course, we're going to follow up with more companies I'm hearing are moving out of Washington. Do you think that Bob Ferguson and crew are going to figure out what's going on or not? Probably not would be my guess. We'll be back tomorrow with those insane stories and exciting interviews. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.